The accounts of former President Trump will be reinstated on Facebook and Instagram in the coming weeks, parent company Meta confirmed on Wednesday. Our determination is that the risk to public safety has sufficiently receded, Meta President of Global Affairs Nick Clegg said in a blog post. As such, we will be reinstating Mr. Trump's Facebook and Instagram accounts in the coming weeks. However, we are doing so with new guardrails in place to deter repeat offenses.
Democratic Representative Adam Schiff hit out at the decision on MSNBC yesterday. Let's watch.
I think Facebook's decision to reinstate Donald Trump is inexplicable. It represents, in my view, a total caving in and copping out. The only motive I can see is a profit motive here. If you look at what Donald Trump has been posting on his own social media platform, all of that violates Facebook's policies. He's continuing to give aid and comfort to those who committed acts of insurrection. He's continuing to spread the big lie. And the idea that somehow he would not do that on Facebook when he's doing it on his own platform, to me, is a tragic decision by a company that is putting its profit above the public interest.
Wow.
It's inexplicable why Donald Trump should be back on Facebook and these apps. I think free speech is a pretty good explanation.
I think it's explicable.
Like the idea that he's saying things on other apps that would violate Twitter's policy, therefore he can't come back on Twitter, is ridiculous. You're allowed to say and do whatever you want in the world when you're not in the confines of the social media bubble. Yes. If he gets on Twitter and violates the policy, they can boot him out again.
Imagine thinking the only reason that Facebook would decide to bring back Trump was for their profits. Which, by the way, they are a private company. They want to make profits.
Yeah.
They don't have to not consider profits because it makes life more difficult for Adam Schiff.
Adam Schiff wants socialism. What the heck? That's what they always say, right?
Yeah, and actually he should check with his old friend Nancy Pelosi. She wants Facebook to have profits. She was invested in them.
That's true.
So the rationale for taking Trump down in the first place was one I think I understand, although I wasn't totally sold by. You know, what was happening at the Capitol was in fact bad. It was bad. I swear it was. It was credibly linked to the things Trump had said, although I would argue not the things he was saying on social media so much as the things he was literally saying to the actual crowd of people that then ransacked the Capitol. That was very bad. It wasn't because of some tweets he was making or comments he was making. But okay, you took him down because there was a actual criminal event taking place that they wanted to get a handle on and put an end to. That it was a long time ago that was happening. Like, that active situation is long past over. And to say that he could never be on the platform again when, you know, you can point to all the hypocrisies. Well, why is X-dictator still on the platform? Why is X-terrorist leader still on the platform? You can't, there's no rational explanation. So I think it's in fact long overdue to say that he can post on the platform again.
Also, look at the revolving door of people who have been brought back from the ashes already. Just because he comes back to the platform doesn't mean he's going to behave well enough to stay. We just talked about how Nick Fuentes was back for all of 24 hours, if that, before he was kicked back off the app. Kanye West brought back. I feel like he's been back more times than a phoenix, but keeps getting kicked off for violating the policy, or maybe not violating the policy. There's some discussion about whether or not Elon Musk is actually administering the policy in a transparent and consistent way versus just kind of kicking people back off once they embarrass him. Either way, just because Donald Trump is acting poorly in other places, just because it might be likely that he violates again, doesn't mean that there shouldn't be an opportunity for him to come back.
Well, and with Hunter Biden, they had to kind of come up with an explanation for why this was violating a policy. It was a very vague explanation for what precisely he was violating, because they allowed him to say things that were incorrect, and then they would fact check him and they'd say this is incorrect, this statement about the election or whatever it is, but it's in the public interest to leave it up. They would do that, but then they decided what was happening at the Capitol made that no longer tenable. But again, it wasn't because he was tweeting attack the Capitol.
Right. The Twitter
he
files
was tweeting, I'm not going to go to the inauguration. That was the bridge too far.
Right. I think there was one tweet, and I don't remember what it was now, that was, I think, more plausibly an incitement. There was, one core tweet that I really think that justified at least temporarily suspending Donald Trump. But unless the policy is permanent ban, we're talking about, like,
honestly, the thing I thought he tweeted that was like closest to being over the line had nothing to do with any of this, which was when he's very, very much like explicitly suggested that Joe Scarborough had killed his assistant or something. Do you remember that whole thing?
No. I mean, I remember the Joe Scarborough scandal, but not Trump's read on it.
Right, which is like verging on a libelous claim.
Yeah.
Especially for conservatives who are all, we got to make defamation law stronger now because the media gets to lie about everything. Well, that means
from my
your
radar,
own...
we got to make defamation law stronger so you can't complain about our corporate malpractice.
Right. I don't want to make defamation
killed.
law stronger at all. I think it would be self-defeating. And one of the examples of being self-defeating is right-wing people like Trump just kind of saying whatever BS. You could think under a climate of free speech, it's healthy to allow people to do that, even if they're going to say a lot of things that are exaggerated or wrong. But some conservatives want to draw that line a lot closer, and I don't think it would be to their own benefit.
I think that's right.
That's going down a rabbit hole.
When you see people, no, that's important though. When you see billionaires trying to up the ante with defamation law to insulate themselves against political criticism. Mm-hmm. Political candidates can't say, hey, there's corruption there. Oh, that person's buying an election. You can't say that anymore because billionaires have made defamation law or fighting these defamation cases so expensive and so onerous, and they know they have the money to win. That is a significant speech problem. But let me ask you this, Robbie. We live in a very different Twitter world, a different Twitter landscape than the one that existed when Donald Trump was first kicked off the app. I got to say, many people haven't missed him as much as they thought. The void that he left seems to have been filled by other actors. It seems that Elon Musk is now the main character on Twitter every day, not Donald Trump. Is there enough room in this town for the both of them?
It's a good question, especially when you think about the Facebook context. Charlie Warzel, who writes for The Atlantic about tech issues, who I usually respectfully disagree with, he had a great post in The Atlantic yesterday about how Trump and Facebook resemble each other a little bit in that their relevance is fading. And it's a very good point. If you flash back to 2016, Facebook is the news delivery system, right? That's in fact, if you're writing, if you're a journalist, if you're producing content, you want it to pop on Facebook. That is the delivery mechanism to your audience. Trump skillfully using Facebook. He wins the election. Facebook is actually accused of causing the whole thing and being compromised by Russia in a lot of ways that was like so wildly exaggerated, if not flat out wrong. But that was yesterday. Today is so different, and I don't think Facebook will ever again have that kind of a command over the news cycle. In part because choices it made.
To itself.
They deprioritize news. I've described this whole, like right now the tech sector is laying off a lot of people, and media is laying off a lot of people. This was a murder-suicide. Tech started this.
Yeah.
They decided news is too scary. I mean, it goes around in circles because the media accused tech of spreading too much fake news. So then tech deprioritized news. So then when news got deprioritized, fewer people were reading, it killed their profits, they had to fire people.
Right.
And then tech found, well, now there's no content because there's no more news, so we have to fire people.
Well, the other piece that we learned about that from the Twitter files is that it's politicians that are pressuring media to write articles that threaten the tech companies, and it's round and round and round we go. And everybody's suffering as a consequence. And I do have some fear, and I want to know what you think, are some of the changes that Elon Musk is making to Twitter going to similarly kill that app's power from being so important to journalists, to being so important to politics, being, the place where you come for the news cycle? The fact of keeping Trump off the app, is that kind of an exemplification of the kind of policy choices that are pushing Twitter farther and farther into irrelevance, the way that Facebook is now? I mean, when do I log on to Facebook? To double check a friend's birthday?
I almost never post on Facebook. I used to. I wonder when the last time I posted an article or a video on Facebook. It's got to be over a year ago.
I had the auto post from my Instagram stories to my podcast account, but that's truly it.
It'll be like Napoleon returning from Elba, a very exciting 100 days, and then back to exile.
I hope it is. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say I hope it is exciting. I'm obviously not wishing for anything that is illegal or bad or harmful to happen. But I've got to say, there is something about the way that the media is framing Donald Trump and his run that doesn't quite sit well with me. And I think they're able to control, because it doesn't seem accurate. I think they're able to control the narrative and kind of manifest realities about his campaign, in part because he is marginalized in this way on these social media apps. And it will be interesting to see whether the journalists themselves have learned the lesson of 2016 and realize that just because Trump's back doesn't mean they have to talk about him. Yeah. I never used to even follow
Or he could prove this is not out of the realm of possibility whatsoever. I mean, he's starting to be almost underrated slightly.
Yes.
He could come out of semi-exile and quickly suck up the news cycle again, knock Ron DeSantis out of the running, and be the Republican nominee for president again. Like, that could happen. That's starting to be counted out as unlikely. I think it's not the most likely outcome, but it is not impossible. Like, don't pretend
I did a radar on this, just in case.
Yeah.
I did put my finger on the page just as a bookmark to see if we can come back to this. But look, the alternative is that being kept off of Twitter and Facebook is the best thing that could have ever happened to Trump. It's what's keeping him in this game and making him seem more tolerable to folks who just wanted civility. And that Ron DeSantis knows what he's doing in not being a Facebook warrior and basically outsourcing a lot of his worst statements to his media consigliaries.
Well, before we go, some interesting Trump news. I just saw this on Twitter from the Palm Beach Post. So Trump won a golf tournament at I believe at Mar-a-Lago at the Trump International Golf Club, in West Palm Beach. But he won the tournament. He missed the first day of the tournament because he was attending the Diamond and Silk funeral. But so when he showed up for the second day of the tournament, but he was in the lead, he's like, oh, that's because I played a round of golf on another day before I went to the funeral, and I did really well, and this was my score. Isn't that funny?
He's rigging golf games?
Trump told tournament organizers he played a strong round on the course Thursday, 2 days before the tournament started, and decided that would count as his Saturday score for the club championship. That score was 5 points better than any competitor posted during Saturday's first round. He announced on True Social that he won the senior club championship.
Oh my gosh, the emperor has no clothes. You almost got to respect the game.
A winner is Trump. More Rising right after this.